you might feel safe in your marriage, but you're really not. Because I thought I was safe, and I was really not safe, because at one point my wife simply said, you know, Julian, I've had it, this is it. I'm not your therapist. I'm not putting up with your pressure at home. If you don't go first, trust me, your wife is going to be the one who's going to pull the trigger, and she will surprise you, because at one point she's going to say, let's separate. So before that happens, maybe you could suggest moving out for some time to see what's going on. One of the biggest fears I had around separation from my wife was what would happen with my kids and my relationship with them. What I didn't know back then is that there could be a way, and there actually was for me, to be in a much better position and a much better relationship with my kids than I have ever been before in my life. And if you're currently in a marriage or living with a partner and you have kids and you're not sure if you're in a good relationship anymore, and maybe you've contemplated separating, but you're fearful about what might happen with the kids, then let me tell you, there is a solution for this, and it couldn't be easier, but it has one important prerequisite. You need to be on good terms with the partner you're separating from. If you're not, and it's going to be a big fight, then your kids are going to suffer big time. So in my case, I didn't have a great role model, because my parents didn't manage to do it in a beautiful way. They separated, and it was one big mess. And if you also come from a family where your parents divorced or separated, and you've experienced the same thing, then you might be very afraid of even thinking in the direction of separation or divorce. What you might not know is that separation could actually be the one thing that changes everything to the better in your life. And it isn't because most people fight and have trouble when they separate that your story has to be like that. Because in my case, I managed to separate from my wife, and we're in a really good position right now. It wasn't always like that, and it was some rough patches along the way, but I was able to move through this in a really good way because I had some strong help from mentors and a coach. So what were the warning signs in my marriage that I overlooked that led to the downfall of my marriage? And maybe if you see yourself in some of these things, then you're at great risk of breaking your marriage as well. So here it was for me. When I came home from work, which was oftentimes very stressful, I experienced even more stress. 2 kids, one of them a 2-year-old, throwing herself on the floor, screaming, full meltdown. And then every evening brushing their teeth, it was like torture for me many times, because they just didn't cooperate. And then in the morning, the same thing again, getting them ready to go to daycare and to school. But I was already at work in my mind, and I didn't want to put up with all the shit they were giving me. But you still need to be patient with them, and I just didn't have it. And one of the reasons was that I didn't have my business set up in a way that I was relaxed and really enjoying it. And so I experienced stress at work, I experienced stress at home, and it just multiplied. And instead of finding the time to be by myself guilt-free, I thought I had to perform and be there all the time. And I felt guilty when I went to the gym, because I thought, okay, my wife needs my help at home with the 2 kids. And it was really crazy. I was not doing myself a favor by trying to work and function all the time. And it wasn't until after my separation that my wife told me she was actually able to handle the kids by herself a lot better than she thought without my help. And I was shocked, because at one point she said, Julian, I didn't expect it to be this way, but it's actually a lot easier than I thought, because I now have 1 kid that I don't need to take care of. And she basically referred to me. And so if you're in a marriage right now or in a relationship and you're coming home from work and you've experienced a lot of stress, and then you talk about all of that with your woman, you should not be doing that. You should really find ways to talk about stress at work with your friends, or get a mentor, or get a coach. It'll be so much better than dumping these things on your wife, because she doesn't want to be your therapist. She shouldn't be your therapist. So if she does that over a period of several months or even years in my case, then at some point it's going to break down, and you might feel safe in your marriage, but you're really not. Because I thought I was safe, and I was really not safe, because at one point my wife simply said, you know, Julian, I've had it, this is it. I'm not your therapist. I'm not putting up with your pressure at home, because I put a lot of pressure on the kids to perform. I even did it with my wife. I looked at her like she was an employee who had to function. So I was totally messed up in the way I saw my wife and the kids at home. And so I overlooked many of these warning signs, and I was operating from fear in my business. And if you're doing that as well, you're not doing yourself a favor. So there are basically just two options. If you're in a relationship and it's not awesome, then you need to work on it to get it back to this point again. And the same thing with your job or business. If you're unhappy, unfulfilled, you need to change something. Because if you don't, and you neglect this area of your life, you will be unhappy, and it will not be good for your relationship. So my top priority when my wife and I separated was to do it in a really friendly and good way. Because I had seen how my parents had done it, and it wasn't a role model. I hated going through this as a kid, and I didn't want my kids to experience the same thing. So what I did, I made an effort, and it didn't work like I wanted it right from the beginning, because we had some rough phases, my wife and I, after the separation even, because we got into stupid fights over little things. Our kids saw this and they were crying and they got scared, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this, because they suffered. And it's not only that they suffered, it's also that my wife and I, we both realized that just one fight, and it could be just 5 minutes of intense fighting, and the kids seeing that, would lead to both my wife and I not feeling well. So at one point we sat together and said, okay, this can't continue like this. Even one more time of fighting like that is too much for the kids and for us as well. And so we decided to just stop doing that. And we made an effort, and so whenever we now change the kids, like when she's taking care of them and I pick them up and the other way around, we make an effort to be really friendly with each other. Also, one thing that helped is that we're actually now meeting in person at least every 2 weeks. We go to a cafe or a restaurant and we just talk about logistics, and we're generally just being friendly with each other. So, and then when it comes to my kids, because this is the theme of this video, the relationship with my kids actually got a lot better, and I didn't expect it. Because for the kids, the problem isn't the separation. Well, the separation is a problem as well, but it's not that big of a problem for kids. The big problem is when kids see how their parents fight. And it's the worst thing they could experience. But as soon as both parents tell the kids, hey, you know, everything is all right, your mom loves you, your dad loves you, your mom is a good person, your dad is a good person, so neither of us parents talk bad about the other one. They feel safe, and it's really good. And so this is what's happening right now. And also, while before I was feeling like I was in a prison with my kids all the time at home, because I felt stressful and I wasn't able to give them much presence and love. I wasn't able to do it, and they felt it. So even though I was still in a relationship, in a marriage officially, the relationship wasn't really good with them. And so the separation in my case was actually a good thing, because now I see them a lot less often, like only every other weekend and then one night from Tuesday to Wednesday. And now I'm so looking forward to seeing them, and it's so much easier for me to be in the present moment, to put my phone away and we do cool things together. We go swimming together and we go to the playground, and it's just a lot of fun. So you just saw that it's really possible to have a good relationship, even a better one with your kids after the separation. And I think many men don't see this and they're really afraid. And the kids is just one area where they're really afraid. Another area is money. And the third one is where as men we're older, they're afraid they won't find another partner anymore and they might be alone and they fear that. But there's nothing to fear. The only problem is when you neglected yourself as a man and you know you're not feeling as energetic anymore as you used to when you were younger. But for all of these things there are solutions, and I'm going to record more videos on how to deal with the money situation and how to deal with the question if you're ever going to find love again, because those are really important questions. And being in a marriage, it's really hard to break out of that. And there are many women and men, they stay in bad marriages for years because they don't have the guts to make a change. So knowing what I know now, I would have been much more open to the idea of telling my wife, I can't continue like that because I'm stressed all the time at work and at home. I have to figure out what it is and be by myself. Instead of going straight into a separation, maybe a much better way to go about it is to say, you know what, I need to move out for 4 weeks or 2 weeks. And it should have come from me. I should have done that and be the first to do that, because if you're not doing it, you're unsatisfied and you don't know what it is, but you're not in a good situation. At home it's stressful, you get into stupid fights with your wife and you sense there's something not right in your relationship anymore. If you don't go first, trust me, your wife is going to be the one who's going to pull the trigger, and she will surprise you, because at one point she's going to say, you know what, I've had it, let's separate. So before that happens, maybe you could suggest moving out for some time to see what's going on. And I didn't have the guts, and I didn't even see it back then because I was so stuck in my way of seeing things, because I thought work and family is all there was. But of course, that isn't everything to life. There's more than work and family. So to conclude this video, a separation or even divorce does not have to mean you're going to have a bad relationship with your kids. The opposite can be the case, and there's a good way to go about it and there's many bad ways to go about it. And my number one recommendation would be to really be on good terms with your partner and be friendly with them and not make them your enemy. And if you're currently in a relationship or marriage and you feel something is not right, I have developed a quiz below, and it's multiple choice, very easy to answer, and you'll find out where you're off balance in your life and what areas you might need to work on in order to get your life, your relationship and your job or business back on track. So take the quiz right now. You'll get a score at the end from 0 to 100. And if you like, you can leave your email address and I'll send you an update when I record my next video.